Hi, good evening. My name is Neil Mukherjee, and this evening I'm going to be telling you more about myself and my works involving Windrush community engagement in Oxford and Oxfordshire, and a bit more information about why I became a Windrush community ambassador for Oxford and the way forward from here on. The Windrush generation is a generation that contributed immensely to the United Kingdom across the country. But to understand the Windrush generation, we have to understand the context of the history in our country and how it came to where we are today. Now, when we look at the Windrush generation, we have to look back quite a few more years before the events of 1948, when the Windrush Empire docked at Tilbury on 22nd of June. Our British history goes far beyond the four nations of our country. So if we look at that from that point, we also have to consider the history that the United Kingdom had prior to that. And that was the empire, the British Empire, that lasted for over 300 years. Many countries that were under the British Empire are now part of the British Commonwealth. And when Britain ruled the many countries that are now under the ban of the Commonwealth, the citizens of these countries were British nationals. They were British subjects of the mother country of the United Kingdom. This transition happened soon after 1945, when World War II ended, and into 48. Many countries that were under the British Empire were starting to progress towards independence and becoming part of the British Commonwealth. So many citizens born under the British legacy, under the British colonial countries, were actually British subjects, and they were invited to come to the United Kingdom under a new ideology of inclusive Britishness, whereby Britain would be a nation of British nationals and British subjects from across the country, and also embracing the legacy of the British Empire, which later became the Commonwealth. When the Windrush generation came to the United Kingdom on the 22nd of June 1948 through the docking of the Windrush Empire, it was a new turning point in British history. Many people from the Caribbean islands and from Africa came to the United Kingdom to settle here and to contribute and to be part of our economy, part of our country, part of our people. And they did so much work in the NHS, in the bus services, in the NHS, in local shops, local businesses, police force, army, etc. They were working in all facets of British economy and British community life. And they saw themselves as British subjects, British citizens, living here, working and contributing to the British nation. This legacy extended beyond the movement that came from the Caribbean and Africa. It embraced the whole of the Commonwealth, and many countries under the Commonwealth came to the United Kingdom, including countries from Southeast Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and many other countries, Malaysia, further afield. So where we are today, when the Windrush crisis came to light in 2018, it was an underlying issue that was going on for many decades prior to that. And many people who were resident here in the United Kingdom were somehow disenfranchised and had lost their rights, or they had somehow their rights were not being approved or being seen as credible. The reason being was somewhere down the road, the citizens who were working here had not been able to establish their rights because the laws were changing over different periods of time, and the laws were conflicting with each other. The new laws were conflicting with the old laws, and there was no harmony in progression from the old laws into the new laws. My works today has been involved with community engagement with the affected communities, with the African Caribbean communities and with the Southeast Asian communities. The Windrush 2 schemes that are available are the Windrush Status Scheme and the Windrush Compensation Scheme. Under the Windrush Status Scheme, anybody who was resident in the United Kingdom lawfully up until 1973 and also leading up to 1988 and were settled here in the United Kingdom but had somehow had their rights challenged or lost, are entitled to make inquiries about getting their rights re-established, to be working here, settled here and contributing to the British life. The British compensation scheme, the Windrush compensation scheme that we're looking at, also looks at how people can claim compensation for the impact these loss of rights have had on their lives, their immediate lives, as well as their immediate families as well, who've been living here in the United Kingdom. Some people have lost their rights whilst being abroad. Now this is another part of the Windrush crisis that unfolded, because many British nationals and many British people who came to the United Kingdom, British nationals who came to the United Kingdom and nationals from the newly formed Commonwealth countries, were here under right of abode, under the laws of prior to 1973. So because of that, there's been a lot of complications with how people can return, were able to return to the United Kingdom. And these matters are also being looked at by the Commonwealth Task Force and the Windrush Helpline. My work continues not just to engage with the local communities and to get them to be aware that they have not only that they have been impacted by the Windrush crisis, but that they should need to make inquiries on how to get their papers sorted out. But it's also about upholding the Windrush legacy. The Windrush legacy is a legacy that has started in 1948 but has gone further beyond that. It has been a legacy that extends throughout the whole Commonwealth and across the globe for people who came during those Windrush years into the 50s, 60s and 70s, leading a bit more up into the 80s, and came and contributed to the United Kingdom. Those are the foundation years that built our nation as a diverse nation of people and a diverse United Kingdom. What I'm looking towards now is to uphold that legacy. And we're looking at practical ways of upholding that legacy. It's the history that we are losing. It's the history that we're losing of the Windrush generation and their descendants that have lived and settled here for so many years and contributed towards our development of our country and socially progressed our country to where we are today. So I'm doing different types of work on two fields to develop and nurture that legacy and to build the foundations of preserving the history of the Windrush generation. It is so important because without that history we will not be a diverse nation as we are today. We will not be a diversely inclusive nation as we are today. And my concerns are, if we lose this history, it may never be salvaged. History is intertwined with people's lives, and when one generation passes away and gives the responsibilities to the next generation, they will not know anything about their parents' generation or their grandparents' generation, and that history will be lost. The Windrush legacy is a legacy for all communities in the United Kingdom. It's not just for one community. It is and has been founded by the Caribbean and African descendants from the British national countries that came to the United Kingdom, and it had extended across the whole Commonwealth into Southeast Asia. So we have truly been indebted to the contributions of the Windrush generation and their legacy, and how broad that legacy has been progressing over the years through their descendants. And they are a vital part of our Britishness and inclusiveness of our nation. I'm at this moment in time working towards writing blogs that will preserve the legacy of Windrush generation and their descendants, the Windrush generation and their descendants, through small accounts of blogs on my website. And I'll be putting them up on my website in the next few days into the months ahead. I'm also going to be working on work that includes writing plays that enact a bit of a story of a Windrush legacy, a Windrush generation here in England, and I'll be putting that up as a podcast or as a radio tuning in on a podcast, or tuning in that you can find on the website as well. There are other ways we're going to be working towards engagement with local community involvement. I'm working with local councillors and building up awareness with the local city council about the Windrush legacy and how important it is to uphold the year 1948 and the day, the 22nd of June, as a day to be commemorated and to be remembered and to be cherished, not just by the Caribbean communities in this country, not just by the African communities in this country, or the Southeast Asian communities in this country, but by the whole country. This is a day that is a turning point and a founding day for our country, for where we are today. So the work will continue, and it will continue for many years to come, because until we get up to a point where we are aware of our history, our shared history here in the United Kingdom, and our British legacy that we've left behind, a legacy that's lasted for over 300 years, that we left behind that are still with the Commonwealth nations of our country, we'll have lost a lot about our direction of where we are going and where we are at this moment in time. If you have any questions, please do write in to me. My email address is windrushlegacyoxon@gmail.com. You can contact me as well on 07943 507 507. If you know anyone who has been affected by the Windrush scandal, the Windrush crisis that came to light in 2018, and who needs help and support with getting their papers together, or they need help with processing a compensation claim, then do get in touch with me. There is help at hand. There's help at hand across the country, and I'm working from the Oxford and Oxfordshire area to help you, the Windrush generation, and your descendants, to be able to re-engage with the local communities, develop your strength, develop your community presence in this country, and also to have that sense of upliftment and engagement and moving away from disenfranchisement towards empowerment. It's so very vital that we work across communities and with communities to build a Windrush legacy. My name is Neil Mukherjee. Thank you for tuning in this evening. Bye for now.